Hello and welcome back to the Butterfly Effect podcast. I'm Jack and I'm joined once again by Liam.
Thank you very much.
And today we're continuing our Alan Wake series. We're going to be looking at episodes 5 and 6, titled The Clicker and Departure. Now, to go on the back of what you were saying in the last episode, mate, you really wanted to be exploring Bright Falls a little bit more. So obviously at the start of episode 5 you're in the prison and then you're with Sarah going through Bright Falls. So I imagine you was pretty happy with that.
Yeah, so I'll kick off with, straight away to say that I was really happy with episode 5. Such a strong intro to this episode. We all know that I preferred episodes 3 and 4. Episode 5 just carried this on, to be honest. Yeah, because I felt, especially the very first 2 episodes, you're just in forests, really, and you don't really get to see that Bright Falls DNA, you know, the way you do right at the start when you're going through the cafe and that, and you're on the boat to, the radio host. The start is brilliant when you're walking around with Sarah and you've got an ally, and yeah, you have the massive deer vehicle that comes at you. So yeah, it's like the town, you go through it, and I think I would have been quite underwhelmed you never got any of this. They left it late all the way to episode 5, but I was delighted they brought it in, mate.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the fact that you have a partner, it gives you almost like that downtime, like you feel like you've got someone else to, take a bit of the pressure off you, like you're not having to waste a load of ammo because you're by yourself. And speaking of like Sarah, like the AI, she's pretty damn good. Like it's not like AI in other games where they're just sort of blindly shooting and it's sort of for appearance's sake that it looks like they're doing something when they're really not. In this, like she's genuinely helping out, and I know I certainly appreciated that given sort of the trials that you had to go through in sort of the previous chapters of the game.
Oh, it was such a gift, especially when, if you look at our previous partners, we've got, say, someone like Barry who, loses his key in a door, and then, if anything, he becomes a nuisance. But Sarah's brilliant. She takes a lot of the pressure off you, like you say. It was just such a nice change of pace and welcome. I actually found that she was killing probably the majority because I decided to deliberately take a back seat to save ammo. And yeah, she was such a useful ally for me. I was saving so much ammo that I was going to each checkpoint, and whenever I had to pick more ammo up, it just said item full reached or something. So I
Yeah,
was like, yeah, I don't actually need ammo here. Sarah can do it. And when you have to depart ways with her, I was pretty sad, actually. I was like, can't just Sarah do all my work for me? She only, screwed me over at one point, really, when you're trying to break into the church door. And we had 2 villains on either side, and I took care of mine, and I just sort of assumed she'd take care of hers, but I got hit in the back a few times and it killed me. But to be honest, though, I think, I, I've had some difficult moments where I've died so many times that I was like, yeah, you know what, dying once, it's trial and error, I'll take that. But yeah, such a welcome character, Sarah was. I agree.
unlike our friend Nightingale, who it makes me laugh because towards the end of the last episode, you said, "Oh yeah, I'm really interested to see, where Nightingale goes in the story." And within the first 5 minutes of episode 5, he's taken by the tornado and the dark presence. So it is very much just you, Sarah, and then obviously Barry joins you later on, doesn't he? But I was before I forget, I'm gonna mention because I did go into about an achievement as well. When you went back into the diner, did you
Yeah.
did you play the jukebox again?
I did, yeah. So you told me there was a trophy here, so I had that in mind. However, I don't know if I think I might have done it myself anyway, because you just go in the cafe, the jukebox is there. I'm the kind of person, especially towards the end of my playthroughs, definitely got a lot more thorough and forensic. Because I'm not necessarily trophy hunting. I just wanted to, see if, there was any hidden gems anywhere, Easter eggs.
Oh, nice. Okay, so was there any particular bits in episode 5 that stood out for you?
So like we say, the main bit really is where you have Sarah and you're going through the town. I think that probably was my favorite bit actually. When you've got the giant deer truck that comes and attacks you, because to be honest, you see that van I think around about 2 or 3 times throughout the level, and it's called It Finally Comes, and it plays a part where it gets possessed. But to be honest, one thing I really liked about episode 5 was the level of variety. You had, like I say, walking through the town with Sarah. You've got, standing everyone off while you're trying to get in the helicopter. There's the bit where you're running to the dam, and then there's the, the objects that try to, like the walkways that try to break itself, so it, becomes a real mission to get to, your group. And there's the bit as well where you get to, I think her name's, is it Weaver? Where you're in the electric dam bit and you have to do a bunch of like valve puzzles. That bit I thought was really interesting as well, and it was just a really nice level. I really couldn't say. I think episode 4 probably is the strongest one, but I think episode 5 might have been a close second. To be honest, I really enjoyed it.
I thought that would be the case because, I mean, I've got to admit, when I was first playing, I was surprised that you have this whole helicopter sequence. I don't know why, but the game almost feels so grounded that I almost expected it to go no further than cars. So to have a sequence with a helicopter, I remember first playing, I think, wow, you're going to pilot a helicopter? But, no, you don't. Obviously, it's just a cutscene. And I suppose this is where I'm going to come into a negative that I've noticed in the game. I don't know if you agree. It seems to be a little bit of repetition in terms of the storytelling, in terms of Alan, he has a gun, he gets his ammo, he ends up joining up with people, and then for some reason or another, he ends up getting separated by them. And it's done this like 2 or 3 times now, and it was at this point that I really noticed it, because I was thinking, wow, like all this time I've finally got colleagues that will help me out. And I know that the game has to do that because it can't hold your hand throughout all the action and the combat sequences, but from a story point of view, I thought it could have been handled a little bit better.
Yeah, probably. Because I do reckon for a big part of episode 5, you are with Sarah at the start. And if you do what I did, where you can really take a backseat role and let Sarah do most of the work for you, I think the game developers probably were aware people like me would exist. So they almost tried to go completely the opposite way, where they would chuck Alan by himself and get some really difficult bits. So I definitely noticed that. And I think from that kind of moment, I encountered probably the toughest part of my entire Alan Wake experience, to be honest, in this episode, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like I say, there are hard moments in the game. I don't necessarily mind if they're challenging, but if they're difficult and tedious, then it kind of paints it in a bad light, in my opinion. I'll go into that now. You know the moment when you fall off the helicopter?
Yes.
So there's the moment where you break into the warehouse, you find, a gun because you lose all your weapons. So you find a new gun, you break the lock for this garage door, you fend them off. That bit's okay. But then it's the moment you go over this fence and one of the massive taken, shoves this locker thing or this shelf thing down on you. And it's just the sheer amount of enemies in this tiny building. I think it chucks 3 at you, and then it chucks 4 at you, and then it chucks 3 more at you. And then when you think you're done, there's probably a group of about 6 to 7 outside. Now, you kind of do have the ammo to handle it. It's just the amount of small space and the fact that, they all pile onto you at once and you don't have any room to get or kind of weave and dodge. this bit really drove me up the wall to the point I thought I was doing something wrong. So I did actually, I will admit, I had to look up a guide. Like, am I doing this wrong? Because I must have died over 10 to 15 times. Eventually, I got there through sheer agony of limping away, where I cleared the first 3 waves and I limped through the 4th one, managed to weave, and then it turns out there is like a lamppost with a checkpoint a little bit afterwards that you can escape to. I don't know if you remember this particular bit I'm on about, and if you had as much trouble as I did, but this bit absolutely drove me nuts.
I do, and I'm glad you brought it up. And I think sort of for the next sequence, I will literally just be talking about the difficult sections in this particular chapter. And you're absolutely right. This bit, I mean, it was bad enough on normal difficulty. On nightmare difficulty, I knew what was coming, so I'm not gonna lie. I just ran through it. I ran through it because it's next to impossible. You've got such confined space, like you said. You've got different varying opponents. Like, some of them are giant, some of them are quick and small. And if you know, sometimes the mechanics of the game work against you in terms of the running and the dodging. So that bit, I do try in games to clear all the enemies before moving forward. I think sometimes you've just got to put that to one side and think, you know what, I'm just going to sprint to the light at the other end. And then I in fact went back. Like, if I wanted to get ammo or collect stuff in there, I would just go back, kill a couple of enemies, run back to the light. You know, kill a couple of enemies, run back to the light, and just work through it like that. Because if you try and do it all in one go, you could have all the ammo in the world, but you're still gonna die. So yeah, that bit for sure, I completely sympathise with. There's another couple of bits as well when you're on the bridge, the rotating bridge, and it comes back to something I said in the previous episode about the birds. And at this point, the birds are like really getting on my nerves. They're a nice feature in terms of like they're a different enemy you got to think about. It feels like you really cannot get away from them at all, apart from if you shine the light at them. And there's just waves of them. Like, you'll dodge or you'll deal with one lot of birds, and then like a millisecond later, another wave of birds will come, and you're thinking, God, like this is getting really, really difficult now. And you know, a part of me wants to cop out and say that it's on the game developer's fault. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is just meant to be challenging. But yeah, that particular bit as well was something that sort of was under my skin.
I do agree. One thing I will say about the birds is that when they first came in, I actually thought it was a nice welcome change, because I was so sick of just meeting the Taken in the forest wave after wave. I quite like the fact it was something different, you know, birds and I, especially when it gave you the warning with the camera angle at where the birds were coming from, so Alan could like have a bit of a heads up. But you say it is possibly the game developer's fault, and there are times where I actually will agree with that, because like you say, I know it is a bit of a challenge to have the right amount of battery level, but sometimes they come at you too much to the point you actually don't have the battery, you know, power to take them on, and you just sit there and wonder, how am I actually supposed to do this? But the worst thing for me is that there were times I did notice where, you know, I'd be going along a cliff face, for example, and the birds would either come from the ground or through the wall behind me. So, you know, like the birds would actually, you know, defy physics and get me from any angle. And I thought scaling along walls would be a really clever tactic, but it actually turns out that with the game engine, it doesn't matter, because the birds will get you from anywhere. And I don't know if that was just my game glitching, perhaps, but I do know on 2 occasions on my Alan Wake playthrough, they actually did come through the ground or through walls at me. And it just felt like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, I can't see them coming, so I just have to pretty much like 360 about on the spot, hoping that my torch will catch them. I don't know if you had similar experiences with the birds there, Jack.
I didn't know. God, like that must have been such a pain in the arse, like, having the birds come through walls and through the ground. No, fortunately, I didn't have that. But staying on to the theme of difficult sequences, I suppose really for me this is on the nightmare difficulty. Maybe this bit doesn't stick out much to you, but it's when you get to the top of the dam, and Alan says to himself, "Oh, I'll get to even the odds because you're getting swarmed by a load of Taken. You got this massive sort of flashlight that you can pivot to, sort of take a few of their sort of, take the darkness away from them. But my God, I found that bit difficult because I'd such low ammo anyway, which I felt wasn't my fault. I feel like maybe something in the game happened so that I had little ammo. I don't know, but you're trying to pivot this thing, but they're throwing axes at you, and the level of accuracy that they have with these axes is stupidly good, to the point that it's unrealistic that they're throwing these things at you. So you constantly get knocked off it. So you've then got like 10 or 15 of these things on you with barely any ammo. And I'd honestly, like, there was a couple of moments where I'd sort of walk away from the game and just come back at a later point because it was getting that frustrating. So was that the same for you on normal difficulty, or do you even remember the bit I'm talking about?
Yeah, was that the bit where you've got the absolute massive lamp thing, and then the waves are coming and you have to shine on them? Yeah, that bit does ring a bell. I got through it first time, so I played it on normal difficulty, and I think maybe that might be a nightmare difficulty problem. There was one point though where the wave did bleed past my torch, and then I had to dismount it and then, shotgun them off a few times.
Yeah, it really was. And I suppose to wrap up episode 5, you have this absolute moment of carnage, didn't you, where you've got the floor shaking beneath you. You've essentially got to run to the well-lit room to join Barry and Sarah and Cynthia Weaver. I think it's sort of, I don't know if you're in the midst of the tornado, but things are getting thrown at you and you've got to jump at some points, otherwise you'll fall to the ground. And that in itself, again, highlighted things in the mechanics of how Alan moves and jumps. That can, sort of show how the worst sides of the game, I suppose. But ultimately, you get to the well-lit room, don't you? And you pick up the clicker, and that sort of signals the end of episode 5. So to quickly sort of wrap up episode 5, you would say that it sits almost second place at the moment in terms of,
so episode 4 was my favorite with the doctor place. I'm gonna have to revisit episode 3 again because I'm sort of thinking episode 3 and 5 are on par. Then it would be episode 1, and episode 2 would be last for me. And then I still need to process episode 6 today because I'm actually just fresh off of playing that one. I just finished it today. So, today's the day I finished Alan Wake, minus the DLC, which I'm yet to tackle. So yeah, should we move into the final episode now, the finale, Departure?
Yeah, so from what you can remember of episode 6, what were your thoughts in comparison as to what you've played already?
I will admit, I guess I was a little underwhelmed. I get they probably had to tie the story endings together though, so and the way it ended on episode 5, the whole thing was just pretty consistent, but it definitely lacked variety. So for about 80% of this level, I think the mission you have at the top just says get to Cauldron Lake, I believe. So the aim of the whole level is literally just for Alan to walk to this location to, kill the tornado, I believe. Which is all good, and I get it has to end this way, but it meant you had no companions. There was a lack of location variety. There wasn't much variety in the villains you faced. Like, there's birds at one point, there's a poltergeist scene on the bridge. You've got another big vehicle, that's getting controlled, and just a bunch of taken. So while I'm kind of dwelling on the negatives a little bit, I don't know if you had this experience, Jack, but my level 6 was really buggy. I had a lot of glitch issues.
No, I don't think so. Why? What sort of things were happening?
Yeah, sure. So the cars at certain points weren't really drivable. So I know the driving mechanics in this game can be a bit funny. So I've always struggled with the cars in this game to go uphill, especially. Like, you'll be driving around, but to go uphill, it can be a real mission, and sometimes you have to reverse a lot just to go uphill. With cars in spots that weren't even that steep. But there were different spots on the ground as well, which would almost slow the car down and then speed them up with no reason. I took a video for you earlier as well, but I did find that Alan would trip on a lot of stuff. So especially the bridge scene where you get out of the car and all the items are being controlled and it throws more barrels at you. Yeah, this is quite a welcome theme. I did enjoy this the first time it happened. A bit of variety away from just facing more of the taken enemies. But one thing it did harm the game was the fact that it would throw objects at you, but it would damage the bridge slightly, and there would be objects where they shouldn't be. And sometimes it would create blockages, and sometimes the game mechanics meant Alan Wake didn't know how to get around them. But he was sliding to the left along the side of the grating until I went all the way off it, and then he stood up again. But I had about a 10-second phase where Alan Wake was just in limbo and stuck on this grating. I was like, oh, what's going on there? And the one that I showed you, it pushed this car really close to this lorry, and Alan was stuck between it, so he was just stuck in the falling motion, and I had to restart the chapter because he couldn't get around it. So I guess it's just a risk the game engine took with having objects that fall in random directions. But like I say, it didn't quite blend too well with the way that Alan's mechanics were essentially. So yeah, you didn't really have any glitch experiences in this episode.
But actually, no, you have just reminded me of a glitch. And again, I think maybe it's obviously a problem area because it was the bridge. I was saying before, it's incredibly annoying with the objects. Sometimes with the objects, even more so than the taken, because they can bounce off other objects, and even if it slightly touches you, it seems to take a bit of your health. But there was actually a particular time when it was a bit buggy, and I was doing everything right. You know how the floor can move, and you got to sort of sometimes jump, over to another bit of flooring. There'll be moments where I'm pointing my torch at an object, and I will have definitely got rid of it. I don't know if some sort of force field sort of comes off it as you destroy it, but it pushed Alan Wake off the bridge, and I laugh about it now. At the time, it was so infuriating because I was right at the end of that particular bit. So yeah, I do agree. There are sort of, or at the very least, there is potential for buggy things in that moment for sure. But before I forget, there's something positive that I want to mention. You put on the TV, and you've got this whole interview sequence, and it sort of buys into the whole narrative they're trying to put forward that Alan Wake is this very famous writer, so the stakes are really high for the situation he's in. But what they did was a nice touch. They actually used the actors, or the actor of Alan Wake, to film this particular sequence, and they obviously got an actor to play sort of the host of this show for the interviewer, and they put it in the game, and obviously then the game version of Alan Wake is talking to his wife saying, oh yeah, I thought I did all right in the interview. And yeah, it was just a nice little thing that they really didn't have to put in there, but I appreciated it all the same. In terms of the rest of the episode, there really isn't that much to comment on, is there? You're driving from place to place, you stop off, you can grab some ammo, and guns, but ultimately it leads you to this tornado. And I liked this particular bit because you could let rip with the flare gun, and the flare gun's like my favourite weapon on the entire game. So yeah, like I thought that was going to be the conclusion. Did you enjoy that particular bit with the tornado?
Yeah, the tornado was good. I actually died the first time because I was just constantly shooting it and nothing was happening, and I got really confused. And it turns out you've got to jump to like the closest ledge and be really up close to it. So when I did that, like a bus came and like took me, and Alan Wake went really far. It's pretty funny though. But yeah, like second try I did it. Yeah, quite a nice, satisfying ending. Like I say, I felt it was actually, for what it was, quite a lackluster level with a lack of variety just to get to this conclusion. But like I say, I don't really know what else they could have done around it. Other than to get to this place. But yeah, what did you think, mate, about the ending of the story?
I thought it was an okay ending. I mean, again, I was at this point, I was aware that this was probably the original ending, but then they have got 2 DLCs. So the ending probably wasn't as hard hitting for me because I knew that there was extra content to come out.
Yeah.
So, but the whole idea that he saves Alice, but he remains trapped in the darkness. I mean, you could cut it off there as sort of as an ending. So it's very bittersweet. You completed your objective to save your wife, but at a cost because you're still stuck. You're not able to be with her or sort of carry on with your normal life. So I thought it was an okay ending.
Yeah, I mean, as for myself, like I quite like the ending as well. I quite liked the intertwining story with is it Thomas Zane, is it? And how he tried to cut corners, so Alan Wake has to do it the right way. One thing I will say, and this loops back to the interview scene where Alan Wake talks about how he's killing off his main character. So it's obviously a bit of foreshadowing there, and I almost thought the foreshadow was too heavy, where I just looked at that interview scene and then I expected the ending. And I don't know if that's a good thing that clocked on that, or if it was just too heavy where I just expected Alan to die at the end of the level from that moment. And I thought maybe it would have been a lot more surprising if I just didn't have it kind of spoiled from a foreshadow, I guess. Yeah, I don't know what you have to say about that.
It's interesting that you spotted that. I'll admit that whole interview sequence, I sort of wasn't really listening to it. I think honestly, by this point in the game, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed playing this game. I did feel like it was very long though, and I was just willing myself to get to the end at this point. So I didn't really listen to that whole sequence that foreshadowed that, he wasn't going to get out or whatever. But it is interesting that you picked up on it, and I suppose, on the one hand, you could sort of reward yourself for, saying that you noticed it and that you guessed it. On the other hand, it's sort of like, I wish that the rug was pulled from under me a bit, and you got sort of something completely different.
It's a bit like those Until Dawn games where the more clues you find, you can actually just work out the story just based off of what you found. Or you can just get surprised and maybe have a, more of a limited understanding of what's going on if you just kind of waltz through the game. But yeah, like you say, I would have liked the rug pulled out for me a little bit more because I just expected it the whole time when it came to the end. But, yeah, like you say, maybe I could have a more, rewarded feeling about that. But yeah, so as a game in all, you thought it was a bit long. I'd probably have to agree, especially towards the start around level 2. Because I must admit, there was a sentiment where when I got towards episode 2 and 3, I did have a bit of reluctancy picking it up. Like, okay, yeah, I'll do it for like the podcast. I don't know if I'm going to enjoy this. But then when it really got to the middle of the game, I actually really found myself enjoying it. So I'm really glad I stuck at it. But yeah, quite a nice game. I paid £25 for it, and I think that probably was a fair, a fair cost considering you get 2 DLC levels I haven't even played yet. But yeah, I don't know if you thought it was a good bang for your buck there, Jack.
Yeah, I did, yeah, and I've got to admit as well. I think this is probably my own fault because you can set your expectations so high. And I mean, what I was like when I finished episode 1, and I was telling you all about the opening with the swooping camera and the references to Stephen King, and I was like so on board for this game that my expectations skyrocketed. So when I started to notice the little things like the combat and the birds and even the story itself, like it didn't ever grab me like properly at one point. It was good enough for me to keep chugging along and to find out what happened, but I was never truly captivated by it at any point. So in a way, you could say that I was a little bit underwhelmed. But I feel like that may be on me more than the game itself. So in reflection, like up to this point, I'd probably give this 7 out of 10, I'd say.
Yeah, okay, yeah, brilliant. I mean, if I had to rate it, I think it was probably more your game than mine. I'd probably give it a 6.5 because it just needed a lot more variety for me. Like I say, the forest walks with the Taken felt like, what I was doing for half the game. Ammo conservation and just getting wave after wave of these tedious combat battles. But, I'm really glad I played it, though. The world was lovely. The story was pretty good, and I quite liked, a few of the little characters you had going on. But yeah, like obviously, we can move on to statistics if you like, because there are a few collectibles, and it does tell you how many, like kills you got with certain weapons. Because we took pictures of what we got at the end. So should we run through what we had?
Yeah, go for it.
Because we have seen each other's, and one thing that we noticed from the weapons is that so my revolver kills was 258, flare gun 76, shotgun 61, hunting rifle 10, flashbangs 80, vehicles 21, indirect kills 59.
Yeah, see, I think, as I said before, I was very mindful of achievements while I was playing. So where you've got a lot of revolver kills, I suppose my revolver kills that you got are almost, for me, spread for other weapons. So for me, I got 166 with the revolver, 135 with the flare gun, 110 with shotgun, 65 for the hunting rifle, 105 with flashbangs, 62 with vehicles, and 56 indirect. So, and I honestly think that is due to me being mindful of achievements, because as I was going through, I was thinking, I might as well kill 2 birds with 1 stone and try and get these as I'm playing as well,
Yeah, definitely. So my philosophy was definitely ammo conservation. So I always was thinking, let's kill with the revolver, and if I'm absolutely low, then I'll go to the next guns. So yeah, like I just tried to stick to the pistol as much as I could. Probably to my detriment, because I actually really enjoyed, using all the other weapons. And I was definitely a lot stingier than I could have been. Yeah, so it would have been that, like I only had 10 hunting rifle kills because I tended to pick the shotgun over the hunting rifle because you have to pick one or the other. And I would always pick the shotgun simply because it had more bullets inside it, whenever I found them. So I definitely deprived myself of using certain weapons, which is unfortunate, really. But, if I was to go back and trophy hunt, I would certainly get a lot more kick out of using the other weapons, to be honest. So let's go for how many poltergeist objects did you destroy?
So yeah, 98. So I mean, I don't.
Yeah, 91 for myself, so pretty similar.
Yeah, the birds killed. I'm pretty sure there's an achievement for this where, like, if you get 500 or more, like, you get an achievement. So whenever I saw birds, I was chucking the light at them where I could because I knew that would help me with that. So what did you get? You got
909.
Yeah, so getting very similar numbers. Batteries used. I don't know about you, but talk about batteries. When I first started the game, I didn't realize I almost had like the game Outlast. I had that in my head.
Yeah.
You know how like sparingly like you have to use the batteries in Outlast. I was very much
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that going into this. I didn't know that you'd pick so many up. So for a little while, I was almost sticking with one battery and letting it sort of reload again before I'd shine the light sort of full blast at the taken. But obviously, as you go on, you learn actually, like, I can just keep sort of full blasting them, but just keep reloading the battery. Was that the same for you, or did you just carry on reloading?
I was really chaotic with my battery. I mean, I'm looking at our stats, and you used 314. I used 344. So yeah, I used is that 30 more? So like I was definitely very chaotic with the batteries, shining on any poltergeist I could. I would often all taken I saw would get shined on before I would kill them. So yeah, that's definitely something I'd like absolutely blitzed through.
Yeah. Should we move on
But
to
yeah,
collectibles?
yeah, let's go for collectibles. So how many coffee thermoses did you get?
I got 83, which I was really
Yeah,
happy with.
72 here.
Yeah, so I remember thinking, like, God, there's 100 of these. I don't know if, of course, there's six episodes, so I don't know if they would. You can't equally divvy that up, can you, between six? So I don't know how many there would be per episode. But this reminds me actually, to bring up a point as a criticism about the statistics or a way of improvement. I would love it, really love it, if they could redo the statistics in such a way that you knew what episode that you were missing certain things from. I say that because obviously I've done a nightmare run again. I was going for achievements, and somehow, I don't know why, because I've been following tutorials online and whatnot, I've now got, I know it says I've got 83 here, I've now got 99 out of 100 coffee thermos flasks.
Oh wow.
I have no idea where that other one is. So if they had a breakdown of by chapter, that would be like really beneficial for me. But that was like a quick tangent, a quick rant.
Yeah, that does sound very frustrating if you are a completionist. So I know for myself, I rushed very much the first two playthroughs. I think episode one there's 14 coffee thermoses, and I looked at my statistics at the end of episode one, and I got 3. So I was already, missing 11, from the very first one. But I found that the more I was playing it, the more thorough I did become. So yeah, with the collectibles, so what was it? I got 72 coffee thermoses. I probably could have got way more if I was just, paying attention a lot more early doors. I only knocked 3 can pyramids over. I actually neglected these quite a lot. I don't know how you did with those ones.
Yeah, so I got 6 out of 12. And this is sort of something I became more mindful of as I went on. Because you have the little tutorial at the beginning, don't you, to knock the cans over.
Yeah.
I actually had no idea that this would be an achievement. So, like you, I sort of neglected it. But then when I found that out, as the game went on, I was like, right, I've got to look out for them. So, I did start looking out for them. But obviously, I missed quite a few as well along the way because I only got half of them by the end of my first run.
I did the same for chests, because chests I got 20 out of 30. And I'm aware that in level 1, there was a time where I saw a chest, but I thought, nah, it's all right, I'm doing good for ammo. So I just walked past it. So the minute I saw that there was a trophy at it, I was like, okay, yeah, I should probably pay attention. And I'm pretty sure towards the last few episodes, I probably got every single one. But yeah, so how many chests did you get out of 30?
So yeah, I got 24. And talking about the chests as well, is that I started to clock on that every time you saw a chest, there was always like a flare gun and flare gun ammo in there. I just saw that as valuable because if you were in a situation where you're getting swamped by a few of them, you can quickly get that out and take them out, without having to burn through ammo. So, if you were to go back through this game again, you'd sort of know the value of chests pretty early on. So you could be like, right, I don't have to burn through so much ammo now. And obviously, if you couple that with using the other guns, because I know you said sort of you'd had problems with conserving ammo, like the shotgun and the hunting rifle, it does burn through people a lot more easily. So over time, you'd have probably saved a bit more ammo there. So that's sort of like a little tip, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, what about the radio shows and TV shows?
Yeah, so radio and TV, I actually got full house. So 11 out of 11 radio, 14 out of 14 TV.
Yeah, you did well, man. Like I definitely got all of the radio shows, not the TV. I'm trying to remember what ones I missed now because they were very easy to go back. The TV one was really easy to go back and get. I can't quite remember what TV ones it was, but yeah, like considering, like that you sort of went through episode 1 and you sort of wasn't paying as much attention, like we've got really similar numbers here, so it's sort of credit to you to like that you really sort of knuckled down in the other episodes and caught up really.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, like I say, I don't know if maybe at the start I was working against deadlines. I usually am a pretty, thorough trophy hunter, and I'm very forensic with these games. But I definitely let that slip at the start. I definitely redeemed myself quite a bit towards the end. But yeah, I was pretty happy with the TV shows. I mean, I do think though that there might have been one or two that were in actual tricky spots. I don't know if I remember. I think they're very much ones where if you're in a location, you really have to scan every room, and because you actually can miss them. But and I think as well, I don't know if it counts how long you actually have to be looking at it for. I don't know if that's relevant either.
I don't think it is actually. Like when I watch videos, I think you can pretty much switch it on, and then it's counted. And I wish I knew that before I played, because I'd sit there and like watch the whole thing, and it would be sort of a few minutes,
Right? Yeah.
few minutes long, and it's like God, like. But yeah, and then obviously the final one we've got are the signs, and again, like the Can pyramids, I didn't realise there'd be an achievement for this. So I got 12 out of 25. I wasn't really paying that much attention. I'm surprised I got that much, to be honest. And I can see
you've literally the same, mate. I got 11.
Yeah. So again, very close overall. So yeah, that's the statistics round done. So I guess we're in a position where we can start to wrap up this episode. Obviously, we've got one more left in terms of the DLC. So how are you feeling about going into that, mate? Are you sort of thinking, I wish that this was the ending and they left it at that? Or are you thinking, no, I'm ready to go into the DLC. I want to stay in Bright Falls a little bit longer and, maybe get something different?
I'm really intrigued because obviously the way Alan Wake ended, I don't know if it's got to be done as a prequel. But you know what? I always welcome more content. So yeah, it'll be really nice to get back into that. Obviously I've got a few other projects and IT difficulties at the moment, but yeah, it's always nice to know that there's more Alan Wake I can always dive into. You've played them, haven't you? Would you say that they were a nice sort of change of pace for you? Were they very different from the main game? Are they equal length as well?
I'd say that in terms of length, they're probably about maybe an hour long, an hour to an hour and a quarter. I won't go into what my opinions on them are. Obviously, I'll wait till the next episode. I'll wait for you to play them. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, anyway, cheers for recommending this game. It was actually quite a nice change. Obviously, in the comments, if you have played Alan Wake, let us know what you thought of it. Yeah, and obviously, if there's any other games you want us to cover, shoot them as well, and we'll try and see if it's something we'd like to do. And if you haven't played Alan Wake, let us know if we've sold it to you, or if it's something that does sound intriguing, something up your street. And obviously, another thing, if you have played Alan Wake and you're a massive fan of it and you disagree with some of the points we've mentioned, please let us know, because we'd love to, review what the consensus is and what, the fans out there think. So, yeah, no, thank you very much for having me, Jack. I'm happy to wrap it up there myself.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll wrap it up there. So, thanks for joining, everyone, and we shall see you in the next episode.